In this video, I'm going to talk about Neuralink. I'm going to talk about the company, the technology, also about competitors, their vision for the future of their product, some critique, and also my vision of that company and their product. So stay tuned. So who am I? My name is Joosten. I'm a biohacker and a cyborg futurist. And I'm fascinated and specialized in the topic of human enhancement and human augmentation. And I write articles about that topic, I give webinars, I give keynote presentations, and as you might imagine, because you're on my video right now, I also make videos about this topic. So if you like what you're seeing, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel down below. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the company, then about the technology, the competitors, their vision of the future, critique on the company and their ideas, and I'm going to end with my conclusion. So the company Neuralink launched in 2016 and it made its first appearance in 2017. But it got mostly famous because of the mention of Elon Musk in an interview with Joe Rogan in 2018. And you're probably familiar with the name Elon Musk. He's a technology entrepreneur in companies like Tesla and SpaceX. But he also found the time, I think, to also got involved with this company, Neuralink. And while I record this video in 2021, there are about 100 employees working for the company. And Elon Musk is involved in the company as a director, as an owner. It's a privately held company based in San Francisco, the United States. And he also allegedly funded the company with $100 million from its own pockets. So some things about the technology, as it is in the year 2021. So maybe when you watch this video in the future, some things have changed. But the company Neuralink is working on brain-machine interfacing or brain-computer interfacing. So they're working on methods to analyze our brain signals. And they also do not only want to read the signal, but in the future they also want to write the signal. So not only getting information out, but also getting information in which way also to change things in our brain. And they use brain implants, so they have to get inside the skull with their measuring, with their sensors, as you might say. And for that, they use a new technology with really tiny wires. And these wires, they are even smaller than the diameter of a human hair. So they're really, really small. And because they are so small, normal people, like normal surgeons, cannot operate this, cannot work with these tiny threads to put them inside through the skull inside our head. So Neuralink does have a robot surgeon, so it can really precisely put these little threads inside the head. And on these tiny threads there are a lot of electrodes, and these electrodes are then near certain neurons. So these electrodes can also look at the electrical signals and then put it outside of our brain and put it into another machine. The machine they are currently working on is called the Link. It has a diameter of 23 millimeters and it's 8 millimeters thick, so it's really small. And it's also a change. This is a picture you can see, because in August 2020 they had like a device near the behind the ear, just like a cochlear implant. And now they have the Link and they can put it onto the skull. And that is a device that can, in which you get like the analog signals from the brain, and the Link, that device, uses it to also decode it from analog to binary, and also to amplify the signals and also do something with the noise reduction. So I'm not completely clear if it's all that procedures are being done inside the chip or on another device, because the signals go from that chip to a machine, a computer, a smartphone. So probably most of the heavy lifting concerning the interpretation of the signals will be done on a computer or smartphone or other thing. But this, you can see that a Link as a sort of hub to get the information from inside the brain, and then it's Bluetooth connected to other machines. And at the moment this Link has a 12-hour battery life, so then you have to recharge it. So maybe in the future that will become better as these energy and battery technology improves, but at the moment it's 12 hours. And what's interesting is maybe you have the impression like, oh, putting electrodes or even maybe there are tiny threads inside the skull, that's pretty invasive. But that's also one of the major challenges the company is facing. But the main idea, like Elon Musk has also mentioned, is that in the future this technology will be like a Fitbit for the skull. So I think he means with that we find it acceptable to have such a thing implanted in our head. And one of the other analogies he made is like right now when we have LASIK surgery for our eyes, it's also something that's pretty acceptable and is low risk, is considered as low risk. In the future, we also look at the same way if we also have like an implant from the company Neuralink. And I think it's also really important because, of course, you can have a thing inside your skull, but it's like when it's really messy and invasive and you have to go to undergo surgery, then I think not a lot of people are willing to do that, be it patients or healthy people. So it's good that they, for their own business model, that they also look at the procedure to get such a device inside your head. So now I want to share two updates the company gave. The first one is in August 2020 when they had a demonstration with 3 pigs, Dorothy, Joyce and Getrude. And Getrude had a Neuralink implant at the moment, and they used the demonstration to show that they could read the neural information from Getrude. In April 2021, so a couple of months later, they gave another demonstration with a pager, which is a monkey macaque, and he was playing the video game Pong with his mind. So what they did is they had on the motor regions of this brain, he had on both sides had a link implant with the tiny wires. And then first he was playing a game of Pong with a joystick. And so at the time they could also see if he's going to the right, what kind of brain regions are lighting up and where they get the signals. And when he's going to the left, what are brain regions on that part. Oh no, I think it's vice versa, but never mind. And then after a while, when they had enough information and they had the algorithm trained on the data, they decided, well, we can just unplug the joystick and let Pong think he's playing the game of a pager, play the game of Pong, but in reality he's doing it with his brain. So that was also a leap forward in the demonstration of what Neuralink is capable in. And yeah, I'm curious, at one moment they also have the first experiments in humans. Neuralink is not the only company that's working on brain-machine interfaces. Another company is Kernel, founded by Brian Johnson, who has a similar story compared to Elon Musk, because he also made a lot of money in Silicon Valley as a technology entrepreneur. And he's also working on a similar product, so looking at brain-computer interfacing. And I think they're also now looking at, do we also need to get inside the brain? It was the original plan of Kernel, or can we stay on the outside of the brain? Because that's another thing. There are also people who think, well, why should you go inside the brain? This is an example of a EEG headband by Muse. And it uses like non-invasive methods because it's on the outside of my skull and then measuring sort of a couple of brain waves. And you can use this device to measure your quality of meditation. So that's also a debate in this field, like, do you need to get inside of the skull to read better signals? It probably is, because there you do not have to go through the skull and through all the fluids, but you're closer to the neurons you want to track and monitor. But it's still, I think people are more willing to wear this device or other devices which you can put on and off, compared to have a surgery, so you have some technology always in your brain. And the third competitor worth mentioning is Stentrode. They're a company from Australian researchers, and they do not have to go through the skull, but they use tiny wires. One of the benefits of this procedure is that you also do not need surgery, but you just it's also less invasive compared to what Neuralink is currently doing. But like I mentioned, the main vision of Neuralink is in the future. It's just like LASIK. It's not a really big deal to have a Neuralink implant. So we'll see how that unfolds in the future. So what's the vision of Neuralink? I want to mention three visions. The first one is they say we will use this technology of these brain implants, brain-machine interfaces to help people with neurological diseases. Think of people who are paralyzed, think of depression, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. And this is also a quote, a tweet, I must say, by Elon Musk after the demonstration with the monkey Pager, who was playing the game of Pong, where he says the first Neuralink product will enable someone with paralysis to use a smartphone with their mind faster than someone using their thumb. So that's of course about smartphone usage, but their vision is maybe in the future we will want to use this technology to help people with these diseases. Another vision is like the first one is about helping people with helping patients with a disease, but another vision is, well, our current way in which we communicate with each other is pretty slow, because if I have an idea in my head, I want to type it down on my blog or in a letter, and then you are reading it, and then it's that information or these ideas get inside your head. Or right now I have things I want to share with you, and I'm recording it via audio and video, and then you watch it and hear it, and then it gets inside your head. But the vision of Elon Musk is that it's really slow, this type of communication. So maybe in the future, when I have a Neuralink implant and you have a Neuralink implant, I can directly send my ideas and thoughts and information to your head. So it's more of a telepathy kind of idea. So that's one of the more science fiction visions of at least Elon Musk, but I would think that also other people in the company have these same kinds of ideas. And another thing is that you also, of course, can think about communication between people, like I mentioned before. But one of the fears Elon Musk is sharing in his media and social media is that one day in the future we will be surpassed by super intelligence and we'll be slaves to machines and robots and non-organic life forms. And he once stated that the best way to is not to fight super intelligence, but to merge with super intelligence. So you can directly communicate with artificial intelligence in your mind, in your brain. And I think the best way is to let Elon Musk tell it himself. And this is in an interview with Joe Rogan.
That it's likely that we will merge somehow or another with this sort of technology and it'll augment what we are now? Or do you think it will replace us?
Well, that's the scenario. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it, join it. That's
So what are some of the critiques on Neuralink and its visions? The first one is about safety. You have to really think about the toxicity and also about reactions of the immune system of the body, of the brain. So when you get inside the brain, which is a very delicate organ, you really need to be aware of what is going on, and you don't want to invoke allergic reactions or other leak toxic chemicals inside the brain. And you don't want to tangle with certain functions in the brain. So for example, you don't want to lose your ability to speak or to walk or somewhat trickle with your motor function. So that's the first one, the first point of critique, let's say challenge. And the second point of critique is more in the practical sense. Like I mentioned before, one of the visions is that you can communicate with other people. Well, I don't know what about you, but a lot of times my thoughts go all over the place. Even when I'm writing an article or like this, when I'm doing a video. Well, when I'm doing a video, I'm highly concentrated. I hope you can see that. But it's really, can you directly send a clear message from a person to another person? I think, I'm not sure how that is going to play out. And it also relates to a critique Antonio Regaldo, one of my favorite scientists, journalist, made after the August 2020 announcement where he says, well, one of the ideas or visions is, I quote, rock climbing without fear, play a symphony in your head, see radar with superhuman vision, discover the nature of consciousness, cure blindness, paralysis, deafness, and mental illnesses. And he says, well, these are all grandiose ideas, but it's more like neuroscience theater. What he saw was not that new or spectacular in his opinion. And that's also one of the other critiques, is that Neuralink seems to be looking at these neurological diseases from an engineering perspective, but a lot of these times these diseases are more complex and also involve some other things, also maybe in the environment of the patient, also with the biological means, these kinds of things. So that's the second point of critique. And the third point of critique is, what about power and privacy? And what's funny that near the end of 2020, the country of Chile was the first country to also have like a data protection of your neural data. And I think that's a really interesting type of regulation, probably way ahead of the future, but I think that's good that regulators and legislators are thinking of that, because if you want to have the Neuralink, like I mentioned, working well, if you want to communicate with other people or have access to artificial intelligence, probably this company also needs to have access to that data for the product to work well and for the algorithm to be trained. And that's, of course, we are now more and more aware of the data we give to social media companies like Facebook and Google and other companies, and what they do with it, and maybe also familiar with the term surveillance capitalism. But what will happen if these companies also, I don't know, in the future can analyze your thoughts, or even your dreams, or maybe you have really weird dreams? Do you want that people know that? And you also have to have a lot of trust in a company like Neuralink, not only what they do with the data themselves, but also they can be hacked. And now, of course, you have also incidences where your data is on the street, where you thought your passport belonged to a company and they had their safeguards up, but then there was a major data leak or it being hacked. So what? Of course, you cannot think what will happen if that happens to your brain, especially when you also not only have the read function, but also have the write function. That is really getting into a dystopia where you can be like manipulated via your brain signals. So I think that's really a major concern. So to conclude, I think, first of all, it's really fascinating what the company Neuralink is doing. I'm really fascinated by neuroscience, by neurotechnology, so that's really why I'm really interested in what they're doing. And I also spoke with some of the scientists in this field, and they say one of the good things is that the neurological diseases and also neurotechnology and neurosciences are getting more attention because of the involvement of Elon Musk and what the company Neuralink is doing, and also more funding. So I think that's also a good thing. So that's my first point. My second conclusion is, what if Neuralink can actually deliver on their promises? I think that will be like, then we have endless possibilities, nothing compared to the introduction of the internet. With internet, we have like on all other platforms, ecosystems, we use the smartphone all the time. And I think compared to what if we can unlock these capabilities with our brain, that's like really a game changer, and maybe can also change the way we interact with each other, when we communicate with each other. And I think in interviews, Elon Musk is a little bit too utopian about the future, where he says, what if we can have telepathy and communicate with each other? We have less war because we understand each other better. But I think that's a sort of, then you're missing the point. For example, with the introduction of the internet, these pioneers had the same idea, that with the use of internet, we have less war because we have all the information and we can communicate with each other. And then you also see like fake news, hackers, criminals, and countries misusing this technology. So I think the same can and will apply to Neuralink technology, because humans are using it. And so I think the problem is not per se the technology, just like the internet, but the problem is that we have people who have good intentions, but also a lot of people with bad intentions. And I think that that's something we really need to be aware of for the future of this technology. And that's also my first conclusion, and that's also closely related to my second point, that we really need to be aware of where this technology is heading. And I think it's really amazing if we can use it to cure or some of these diseases, or help people who are paralyzed or are suffering from other neurological diseases. My own grandmother had Alzheimer's, which is like a really devastating disease, not only for herself but also for her partner, my grandfather, and the people around her. So I think it would be amazing if we can help these people and solve these issues. But I think when we are not willing to only use it on people with disease, but also on healthy individuals, we really need to be aware of the question of privacy, of power, safety, not only of the product itself, but also of the safety of who has access to that technology. So we'll probably be years or decades ahead when that's the case. But that's also my fascination, that we need to be aware of these possible ramifications and impact on society right now. So that's cool that you're still watching it. And I also invite you to think about that question. Would you like to use it? In what kind of situation? If you're not willing to use it, do you think it's okay and allowed that other people are using it? So I think we need to have a continuous dialogue and debate about these kinds of questions. So to summarize, I talked about the company Neuralink, their technology, some of the competitors. Think also about the headband, so you're not going inside the skull, but you're staying outside of the skull. Some of their visions, critiques, and also my conclusion of what is happening with this product and this company. If you want to share your ideas or thoughts or opinions on Neuralink, please leave a comment down below. I read all of the comments and I try to respond to them. If you have a really good question, I will respond anyway. So leave a comment down below. And maybe in the future you can just send your comments via the Neuralink to YouTube, and it's down this video. But for now I would ask you just to write it. So thanks. Please subscribe to my channel, and also if you have a question or a remark, leave a comment down below. Go to my website if you want to have a free download, and if you're interested in more in-depth knowledge and know-how about human enhancement, human augmentation, biohacking and the superhuman era.